we saw the presidents of some of these big Ivy Leagues go in front of Congress.
How'd they
arguing with Elise Stefanik about what was happening on their college campuses with the anti-Semitism. And Claudine Gay, a lot of people said, we want you to step down from Harvard. Elise Stefanik is an alumna, and so she said, I want you to step down as well. She refused. They were trying to work through all that, but it turns out, as of yesterday, she has decided to resign. She still keeps her $900,000 salary and will return to a position of faculty.
Wait a minute. She's making $900,000. She was actually making $900,000, about that much, before she became president. And so after her disastrous appearance just about a month ago on Capitol Hill, where here's the thing. She and the other two presidents of these Ivy League universities were asked a really simple question. You know, do you condone violence against Jews? Doesn't that fly in the face of your codes of conduct at your various schools? They would not answer it. It was so easy. Here's the soundbite that essentially cost her her job, but she keeps her salary.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
It depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign.
She's right.
You know, Brian, I think this, a lot of people see this as a victory. I happen to disagree. I just think this is one person. What about the 12-member board that appointed her? Why do they get to keep their jobs? Why does the general counsel, who worded this crafty statement that she read in front of Congress, why do they get to stay? All of them need to go, plus the over 150 plus professors that signed a letter in agreement of her statement. Yeah. So I know some people are celebrating of this, and by the way, why didn't y'all vet her to look at her plagiarism? I mean, she got the PhD in 1998. I think I was 6 at the time. Y'all had plenty of time to look through her work, and apparently people had already reported some of the stuff was plagiarized, and y'all didn't take any of that in consideration before y'all appointed her. I just think they need to clean house in the entire campus.
Same thing with UPenn, though. That president resigned, but still is on the faculty. Yeah. I'm sure it keeps the salary, and she's held on, but if it wasn't for the plagiarism, she'd still be there. Yeah. Because Barack Obama jumped to her cause and said, I want her there, I want her to stay. But the plagiarism was too much, and it kept growing. And credit Christopher Rufo. He's the one who looked into it. He did some investigating. He didn't make anything up. He didn't get on to give fiery speeches. He said, how do you explain this? And I think the numbers kept growing. Evidently, she decided the number of plagiarism, the proof of plagiarism continued to grow. And I think it's basically proven. I love the way people say, it's not that she plagiarized. She just took quotes from other people and didn't attribute it. Okay, fine. Can move my head around that for a second. So here's a bit of her resignation. She says this: it has been distressing to have doubt cast on my commitments to confronting hate and the upholding scholarly rigor, two bedrock values that are fundamentally to who I am, and frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threat fueled by racial animus. And that's really what we heard from Al Sharpton. He believes that she broke the glass ceiling as a black woman, and that's the reason she lost her job, which is really you have to devoid yourself from the facts.
Well, racist? Was it racist a couple of weeks ago when Elizabeth McGill of UPenn resigned? She was at the same disastrous press conference, and she made exactly the same argument. It depends, essentially, is what they were saying.
How did we get here, though, Steve?
No, I know, but one other point, Ainsley, and that is regarding the plagiarism and being the president. Didn't our current president, wasn't he accused of plagiarism a number of times? Yes. Law school, when he stole Neil Kinnock's stump speech when he was running for president back in the 80s. So plagiarism in presidents, we've seen this before.
There was a group of 30 Harvard student groups that went to the newspaper and were on campus talking about what was happening on campus, and they said that this was Israel's fault after October 7th. So that's really what started this. How did we get there? And then she stood by those groups. She didn't condone she condoned what they were doing. She didn't condemn them. And then she allowed them to protest on campus. And then she went in front of Congress and she said, well, it depends on the context of why they would call for genocide. Then it was revealed she plagiarized. But since then, Harvard has seen early admissions drop 17%. Yeah. Nearly 200,000 fewer students applied for those coveted spots compared to last year, and they lost $1 billion in donations, and Jewish groups and students are celebrating this this resignation, only saying this should have happened sooner.
Here's the problem, though, Ainsley. When they talk about the racial animus of this, we as a country, because we're a young country, so we've only been in a little over 200 years, we all celebrate when we break certain glass ceilings. But she didn't break the glass ceiling on her merit because she plagiarized the work. And I think to then say, hey, look, it is because of my race, right. And you guys didn't want me to break the glass ceiling anyway. When you literally put all this work out that wasn't really your own, did you really break the glass ceiling, or did you use someone else's work to break that glass ceiling?
Well, I think
that's what a lot of Americans are saying right now.
Good point, and here's what the media was saying on other channels.
These plagiarism allegations, where Claudine Gay has had to issue corrections, multiple corrections. Now, we should note that Claudine Gay has not been accused of stealing anyone's ideas in any of her writings. She's been accused of sort of more like copying other people's writings without attributions.
I can't even imagine what she's had to face. There are people who have come straight out and said that they believe that Claudine Gay, before the plagiarism allegations even came out, that they believe Claudine Gay was only appointed because she's Black, because she's a woman, but especially because she's Black.
Why are these elite colleges capitulating to it and essentially making it so uncomfortable for these women leaders that they have to step down to be replaced by white men?
Bret Stephens, who used to be at the Wall Street Journal and now is an op-ed writer over at the New York Times, he's got a great op-ed in the New York Times this morning that says, why was she brought in the first place? With a scholarly record as thin as hers, she's not written a single book, published only 11 journal articles in 26 years. How did she reach the pinnacle of American academia, he wrote. Where there used to be a pinnacle, there's now a crater, created by the social justice model of higher education.
What happened is she didn't do the right thing when it came to Israel. She didn't condone what was happening on campus.
It was an easy thing to do,
If it was the KKK, she would have said, this is wrong, we're not having this, you're all suspended or you're all expelled. She didn't do that when it came to anti-Semitism. So then the media starts digging into her past. They pull up all the plagiarism stuff, and then all of a sudden, the board at Harvard the organization is what it's called,
because of the donors,
has to say, look, we're losing money. You can't plagiarize and be president, the face of our university, this Ivy League school, if you've been plagiarizing. So one thing led to another, and then now she's out.
That montage was just incredible, though, to not even understand what plagiarism is. And the last thing I'll say, Bri, is, the president kind of started this whole thing with just saying, hey, I'm only going to appoint someone to the Supreme Court if it's a Black woman. I'm only going to appoint someone to the vice presidency as a Black woman. The standard used to be, at least most Black folks that I'm around my entire life have said, we just want an equal playing field to get the job. The Democrats now have said, we're just going to end that. And we're just going to tell you exactly who we're going to appoint within one pool of people. That's not right.
Do you remember when the celebrities were found to be lying about their kids, their kids' background in order to get into these, get into these schools? And I saw a lot of minorities on campus speak up and goes, yeah, now we know how you feel. Because celebrities walking around on campus, people kind of winking and nod. We know you didn't earn it. We know your legacy or because your parents are famous. But people look at people on campus and they think the same thing of minorities, yet some of them have perfect SATs, unbelievable scores, great essays, and they belong there. But because people have this sense of the DEI in these schools, they look at minorities and say, well, the only reason you're there is because...
It's the worst feeling.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, Lawrence, because as a woman, we just want an equal playing field.
That's it.
If I am just as smart as the next guy or smarter than the next guy, I should get the job. Or if I'm more experienced, I want an equal playing field.
That's right.
You're right. Everyone is equal as long as they have the credentials and the experience. I just want to be considered, and I understand that.
This is what I hope happens now. You know how things changed when everyone stood up in Virginia and said, what's going on here with the attack on the parents? Then everyone got a ward, started running for their school board and got more involved in their kids' work. My hope is now people start looking at their colleges and making them understand you can't be anti-American. Fundamentally, you know what this is? It's anti-Semitism, anti-American. These are the same idiots that shut down JFK Airport, that are plaguing our streets, interrupting the tree lighting. That same attitude starts in the elite colleges, but now is everywhere. And my sense is people have to say, now it stops.
Well, you know what? After listening to this for the last 11 minutes, I've made up my mind. I am not going to Harvard. Okay. I am not going. Sorry, don't ask. I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.